So this video is going to take you through the seven strategies. Actually, specifically, this video is going to cover strategy number 3, which is called define the prize. So the 7 strategies in the promotion playbook are listed on your screen. Those strategies are path, proximity, prize, plan, purpose, pit, and peak. They all start with a P, and then it gets elaborated in the book. But I did that to make it easier to memorize so that you can implement these as part of your preparation. So the story is based on 3 different areas. And I wrote this out real quick so you can see it. To have a successful promotion, you have to have a preparation that includes creating the best stories that are going to support you, having the right strategy, and having the skill set. So the skill set is all the specifics that you need, such as oral boards, tactical practice, size ups, all those things that you have to develop so you can do the hands-on portion of the test. So you need those skills, but you also need to have a strategy in terms of time management, preparation, clarity on what you're doing. And then the story, your story represents the worldview that you have, the beliefs that you have about the test, about the job, about those people that you work with. And it's a more comprehensive approach, because if you have the wrong beliefs and the wrong perception of the test, the department, the position, it's going to be really hard to overcome that just by having the best skills. So once again, take a look at this. This is a comprehensive approach that the promotion playbook covers. It covers a story that you can follow. And then later on, we talk about how you can build and create stories that will help you to present yourself the best during the assessment center. So story, your strategies are here, and then your skill set. So strategy number 2 is called define the prize. And I chose the metaphor of a target. So all these 7 strategies are presented as a metaphorical journey on a mountain path. So for each strategy, there's a visual image, and then the story that you can follow, all so that you can kind of memorize this. And then at the end, there's a tactical tool to put into place. So the point of the target is that you have to have very specific details on what it is that you want, because just being a good person or working hard or taking on a bunch of projects typically is not specific enough to be successful in an assessment center. You need to be to narrow your focus towards that. So strategy 3, define the prize. The settingness, so the character, again, if you haven't watched the previous videos, the character is Jake, who's this firefighter that's a veteran firefighter, but in the past, he didn't do well on assessment centers. He meets a mentor. The mentor in the book is called Captain Tim. And Captain Tim kind of guides Jake to grow in this process so that he can grow and develop into the position, and then ultimately end up getting his promotion. So here's a quote from Zig Ziglar I really like. It says, "Don't become a wandering generality, be a meaningful specific." So most people say, hey, I want to do well, I want to promote, I want to advance my career. Some people don't even say that, but some people are just like, I may test, I may not, we'll see how it goes, I'll just test for the experience. But the key here is that the more meaningful and the more specific you can be in your preparation, the better chance you're going to have at being successful, because what you can measure, you can manage. And when you can manage things, you can have more influence on what the outcome could be. So here we go. The setting here is actually a barbecue that happens at Captain Tim's house. And they end up, during this barbecue, they end up going back and shooting a new bow and arrow that Captain Tim had, and they have a target. And so it's Captain Tim. It also introduces Captain Tim's brother, whose name is Matt. And they're back there having some beers and just kind of talking informally, and they're shooting arrows at this target. And the whole point of this target and the arrows is, think of this as the arrow represents that you know what you're aiming at, you're focused on the target, and you shoot. And after you shoot that arrow, you know whether or not you hit the target. And so how that represents in your preparation for an assessment center is that each week you should have a target. And then at the end of each week or each day or depending on what time measurement you use to measure, you should be able to tell if you're close to that target or if you're way off course. So if you plan to do an assessment center, and let's just take an example of oral boards, and say that in order to get your promotion, you have to be really good at oral boards. And so let's just say you do an oral board, say you shoot a video like I'm doing here, and you shoot a video and it looks terrible. If you never look at that video or never even shoot the video, then you have no clue what it looks like. So part of that measurement is say, hey, this is what it looks like to be really good on camera or really good in person. How you can present yourself on camera is often how you're going to show up in person. In my opinion, it's even harder to do video than it is to do it live, because when you're doing video, a lot of times you don't have that interaction, or it's just technology, and instead of looking and talking to another person, you just have to speak to a computer. So the point of that is, so you have to be able to measure whether or not you hit your target. And if say that you're 3 months away from your assessment center and you're terrible at oral boards or any other part of the test, but at least you know that. At least you know that you're shooting and you miss the target. From there, you can adjust your efforts, and then the next shot, maybe you get a little closer, and the next shot maybe a little closer, and you kind of check in each week to see, hey, am I on course or am I off course? And so in this, the target that's mentioned is the test announcement. So a lot of times there's a position, there's an announcement that a test is coming out. With that is an announcement. The test will be on these dates. You're expected to read this book. You may be tested on the following. You need these certifications. And so one of the important takeaways from this chapter is that get that test announcement and build your plan based on that. The other piece is get everything on there done that you can as soon as possible. There's a lot of people that get taken out of assessment centers because they wait until the last minute. Then they find out they can't find a certification, or they lost a certification, or their certification expired, or they turned in a piece of paperwork too late. So one of the main takeaways is that, first off, get your test announcement, because that kind of sets up what the target's going to look like. It doesn't give you everything, but from there, you can start building your detailed plan in terms of what you need to be successful. Because you could be the best person at, say, commanding an incident, or you could be the best firefighter or the best paramedic or technical rescue person in the world. But if you're great at that, but you're not good at what they're testing you on, it's not going to help you. And so really pay attention to the test announcement. That's one of the big pieces. And then metaphorically in this story, they get the test announcement and they put it on the target, and they start shooting arrows at this test announcement. So metaphorically, the announcement for the test is oftentimes what you can build your strategy on. And again, the goal is not just to get through an assessment center. The goal is to develop into the position. That being said, if you don't succeed at an assessment center, you'll never get the position. So it is imperative to understand there's a piece of this that is a game. It's a game. What I mean when I say that is that there's a way to measure how you score. And if you don't score well, you're not going to win the game. And if you don't win the game, you're not going to get the position, even if you are the best person for it. And there's a lot of great people that I know that I believe would do great in the position, that do great in the position they're in. But when it comes time to understanding how to score, how to win at this assessment center, they don't do very well. And so this is my whole, that if that's you watching, then you're the whole reason that I'm creating this book, is because I hate seeing people that are great at their jobs, they could do great, but they just don't understand this piece of it. And so my hopes is to reach those people that are great. They just need kind of help with understanding how is it that I can get through this assessment center so that I can continue to do my job, but then level up and do it even better or in a different role. The devil's in the details, is that details do matter here. So don't go for that wondering generality, be a meaningful specific. And then here's some of the things from the test announcement that's covered. And I mentioned already is that you want to measure. I recommend checking in weekly. Every week you check in and say, hey, did I hit my target? Yes or no. Another way of saying this is, am I on course? Yes or no. Because so metaphorically speaking, if you're hiking up a mountain and you get off course and don't catch it for a couple miles, then all of a sudden you got to turn around and you got to backtrack, and you're way worse off than if you would have just sat still for that time. Whereas if you get off course and you walk a few feet, check in, look at your map, and need to course correct there, it's much better than getting way off course. So frequently check in to see how you're doing. Keep your eye on the prize. So the concept that's presented here is the 1 target and the 4 skills. So the 1 target is this comprehensive plan that I teach you how to create in the next level. And this is actually what it looks like here for the metaphor, is that you got your 1 target and then the 4 skills. The 4 skills is what the Game Day Toolbox, which is the second part of the book, is all about. And the Game Day Toolbox was what I originally created the book, was like, hey, here's all these skills that I've learned to help me be successful and I've helped other people with, which is great. But it's ideal to put it with all 3 of these, all these. So your story, your strategy, and your skills, get all those together and it'll be the most comprehensive approach. So the 1 target, the 4 skills, the 4 skills are, so these are the 4 skills that I recommend that you put together. So at the end of this chapter, you'll see a tool, but the 1 target is your plan, because you can't, ultimately, you're not going to have control over the ultimate outcome. What you can control is your preparation and ensuring that you give it your best effort possible, and that you show up on the day of the test, knowing that you absolutely gave 100% effort and that you've stuck to your plan. You're never going to be perfect, but at least you can be prepared. So 1 target, 4 skills. You have the study skills. So that's the book knowledge. You have the speaking skills. You have the writing skills, and then application skills. So a lot of times people don't get this. People say, hey, in order to do well at this test, I have to go and do a bunch of hands-on practical stuff. I have to really shine in the practical stuff. And I have to be this firefighter that's this tactical, hands-on firefighter. They can get in there and get my hands dirty and do that part the best. That is absolutely an important piece of it. Yet the problem that I see more often than not, and myself, I made this mistake in the past also, is that I focused too much on that and not enough on these other parts, the study skills, the speaking skills, and the writing skills. Depending on the test you're applying for, there's going to be different variations of what these look like for you. But studying is extremely important, because you have to get through the written test to move on. A lot of cases, you have a written test. If you don't pass the written test, many times it's a pass or fail. So you have to study not only for the written test, but also so that when you speak, you know what you're talking about and you understand it. You get the head knowledge that's necessary. Your speaking skills is that you have the oral boards. You may have a presentation that you have to do, or you may just have to explain a piece of that. There's always going to be a part of this where speaking is going to be part of your plan. Then your writing skills. This has to do with emails. Sometimes you have to write a paper. Sometimes you have to, whether it's an email or you write a paper or just organize things, is that you have to be able to write well in most positions. Even if it's just, say you're watching this and it's just the firefighter level, or it's the driver operator or the engineer position, you're like, look, I have to be a good firefighter and I have to run the pump and drive the truck. That is important, but you still have to submit a letter of interest. You probably have to communicate back and forth by email with those people running the test. And there might be other pieces that you have to use the writing skill. So writing skill is important, and application is everything else. So those are the 4. And then the Game Day Toolkit is the third part of this book. So that's the skill set piece of this book, which is the next after this story and these strategies is this toolkit with all these tools. In the toolkit, there's guidelines and then there's tools. So when I say tools, it's a writing exercise that you print it out and you put this together, and it's this interaction between you and writing things out on the paper. It's really interaction with you and the material that you're studying, and then you put it on the paper, and through this process, you get to grasp it and organize it and comprehend it better. But the guidelines are just kind of guidelines to follow that might guide you and help you in each area. And then there's the tools. So study, speak, write, and apply is what your plan is based off. And then here's the email from Captain Tim. And then here is the assessment. So this chapter ends with the tool of an assessment, to where I suggest this is part of your plan. So next week we get in, or next strategy, we talk about making your plan. So your plan consists of, this is where you get more detailed with what it looks like to win in the plan. But for this, you just got to find out where you're at, because it's kind of like you're going to take your first shot at the target and just see how you are. Are you comfortable holding the bow? Do you know how to aim? Do you hit and totally miss the target, or do you hit the target and you've got 4 different areas? So there's metaphorically 4 different arrows that you're shooting, or you could say 4 different targets you're aiming at, all aiming towards this one main target. And so the overarching one target is to succeed at the assessment center. But you're going to have a plan. You're going to create a plan. And what it looks like is that you complete that entire plan to be successful. So here it is. So here's the 5 levels. So this, I recommend that you do this weekly. At least start out by doing this assessment to see where you're at. So basically there's just study, speak, write, and apply. There's the 4 skills. And then you just rate it on a scale of 1 to 5. 1 being you don't even know about that skill. It's kind of like you're asleep and you're blind to that skill even existing. 2 is that you know this skill, but you kind of struggle. I call that probation. And then player is that you can kind of perform this skill, but you're not the best at it. 4 is a professional, meaning that you perform the skill well most of the time. And then number 5 is that we call that peak performance, is that you always execute perfectly. There's the saying that goes with that, is that professionals practice until they can't get it wrong. Or it says like amateurs practice until they get it right, whereas professionals practice until they cannot get it wrong. So at some level, you probably have this mastered in some area in the fire service. Is something that you don't even have to think about it. Another way of saying it is like you have this unconscious competence. It's kind of like driving a vehicle. The first time you learn how to drive a vehicle, there's all these different parts to it of watching the road, of if you have a gear shift, which you probably don't anymore, but if you had a gear shift with a manual transmission, you'd have to engage the clutch and find the right gear and accelerate and brake and turn and signal and all these things going on. And then after you get it down, you just drive down the road. And nowadays it's hard not to get distracted with the phone, with the radio, with all the other stuff. You see people putting on makeup on the car. So it's because it's an unconscious competence, you're not even thinking about it. It doesn't take up this cognitive energy because you're driving, and it's just, you can hold a conversation. Hopefully you're not on your cell phone or doing something that gets distracted. But from that perspective, this is where you want to get at each of these skills, so that it's not something that you do. It's something that you become, or someone that you become. So it becomes at this peak performance level. It's not something that you have to do. It's just who you are. So it becomes part of who you are, and it just naturally flows from you doing it. So study is a scale of 1 to 5, speak, write, and apply. So what you do in the book, you do this, or you can make copies or print it out, and you say, you rate yourself, and then you have action. So you take a shot. So let's just say you shoot an arrow for study, speak, write, and apply. And where do you currently size up? It's easy to do it by yourself. What you could do to make this even more effective is you go down and sit with your mentor or someone that you're working with and have them evaluate you to see how you are at each of these. And then each week you make your action plan based on where you currently are. So there you are. This is where your arrow landed on the target. Readjust, make your change your efforts for the week, implement a change in plans, and then reevaluate at a weekly basis. This is what Jake's looks like, is that he studies okay. He speaks, he's okay at speaking. He wouldn't say that he's great in terms of oral boards. He's actually not that great. He's over here at probation on oral boards. Study, he's okay because, all the fire service classes you have to take over the years. His study habits are okay. His writing kind of sucks. He's never done a lot of formal writing, so he's not that great at writing, but he's going to develop that. And his strongest skill is his hands-on application skills for him, which you put at a 4. And so sometimes you'll hit a 5 on these. For Jake's examples, I chose just to keep them at a 4 because there's still room for improvement. But for some of you, you might be totally dialed on, you just know that you can speak and speak well, and that is just something you have mastered. So it's good to clean that up and to use that, but also don't neglect these other areas. So that's it. Thank you for watching. And again, you have to measure where you're at. And wherever you're watching this, please leave a comment or feedback. Reach out to me if you want a copy of this. I'm happy to send a copy. And then the promotion playbook, you can find on the promotionplaybook.com. You can also buy it on Amazon. And currently it's October 9th, 2020. All this is still a work in progress, but hopefully by the time you watch this, no later than January 2021, the book and the website will be available. They can help you with all these resources to go through. And the Game Day Toolkit is the part of the book that gives you all these practical strategies or practical skills. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Bye.